Hello and welcome to this small tutorial about how you're going to use the information that has been provided to you in your email to set up your practice Koha instances. Okay. We made this video because we saw that some of you are having difficulties trying to do it usually for three different reasons. One, you have never done it before. You're doing it for the first time. Two, you have done it before, but that was quite some time ago, and when things were a little different, how you set things up in Koha. And three, you have forgotten some of it. Okay, it happens to all of us. So no problem. We hope this video will be able to assist you in getting the best use of your practice instance. And we look forward to having you all practice your heart out in the next 15 days using this. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so all of you would have gotten a PDF file in your email that should have your name. This is the file that has all the information that you require to set your practice instance, the Koha practice instance up. Let's open this file and have a look. So this is the file KIHS01L, learners hosting account details for Koha ILS. So here is your name. In this case, this is in my name, and the section I want you to look at is the section 2 and section 3. Okay. Now here, this is the Koha has two interfaces, as you all know, the stuff client and the OPAC. So here is the stuff client URL, and here is your OPAC URL. This is in my case mine. Yours could be different. Yours could be training 01, it could be training 12, it could be training 16. Okay, so this is all your individual, so everyone will have a different one. As you can see, when we move our cursor over here, the cursor from this becomes this. This is because these are all URLs and we can click on it. So let's click here and see and open our. Now because I am accessing it over a very poor 4G connection, things will be a little slow, but anyway, here is the web installer. Now one of the problems that quite some of you have faced and have reported back to me is that you have tried to see, okay, what is the password, this, and says no, it says invalid password. See, if you make a mistake of this being a small o, this is both the user ID and the password are case sensitive. So a small o and a lowercase o, or sorry, a lowercase o and an uppercase o are two different things. Okay. So here we are going to show you how easy it is. So instead of trying to type it in by hand, select it, copy it, Control C, back, Control V, paste, next tab password. Similarly, we'll copy the password. This way you are absolutely sure that we are getting it exactly what it was. Okay, and say login. If you do it like this, then you could save it. I won't recommend it, but you can save it. So simply we just close this. Okay. So now, as you can see from here, we are the install.pl, the installer is running. First step, language, you say yes, English, because nothing else is installed right now. It checks whether all our PAL dependencies are in place. It says yes, it looks like that. Again, next. Now, one thing I should point out here, see, it's the wheel is turning. That means it's trying to access it. So once you have clicked it once, you don't need to click it multiple times. And it's a single click, it's not a double click. Some of us have a habit of double clicking things. Now that's not how things work on the web. The web is a single click. Okay. So here it says the database setting, it says it wants to check it. Again, click to the next step. Connection is established, it exists and has all the required privileges that we need to work. Again, click on next. So far, we just basically keep clicking on next, nothing much else. And this is where we have to pay some extra attention. So we are now ready to create the database tables. So all you have so far is a blank database. There are no tables and there are no tables and there are no tables with any data. Koha needs its tables and it needs some setup data to be present before we can start using it. Right now it's blank, completely blank. It's an empty slate, tabula rasa. Okay. So again we clicked here and wait for the next step. It has created the tables. Now I should let you know at this point some small trivia that the version that we're using here, this is the latest stable edition, that is 19.11.05, that was released in April, as if I remember rightly, 22nd of April 2020. Yeah. And the Koha database as on date has 209 tables. We'll take a look at that a little later. So now the database table, these are blank tables, mind you, they don't have any data right now. So the blank database, from blank database we have gone to blank tables, and now to the next step. So here is the more important step. We have to take some decisions here. Continue to the next step. Excuse me. It's pretty simple. If you are in India or most of the world, it will be Mark 21. Unimark is basically used in France and French-speaking countries, particularly the older the ex-colonies of France in Africa and East Asia. They still use Unimark. But for the rest of the world, it's Mark 21. So next. Yeah, this is where we need to really pay attention. And this is where people are going wrong and then say, but sir, I cannot log into my system. But sir, I don't know what is my user ID. I don't know what is my password. Okay. So don't worry. We're exactly going to walk you through all of it. And this is the steps that you all need to pay attention here. If you need to, you can take down a piece of pen and a piece of paper and note it down from this video tutorial as the steps from here, so that you have something to refer when you are actually doing it. First thing, there are mandatory settings and there are other data, okay, which also has some mandatory data. So here the mandatory must always be selected. There's no ifs and buts about it. As for the optional, you can select all. In the other data, the mandatory data is all have to be selected, but the optional data, if you select all, then everything will get selected. I strongly recommend you that unless you know exactly what you are doing, you do not select all at this point. You do a specific pick and choose. Okay, we'll walk you through that. So here, let's take this first one, the basic default authorized values. Yes, we need that. So yes, we will have it. CSV profiles. Yes, we will also have this. Then coded values. Sure, this too. Then related code list. Okay, this is for the related terms, for mark related terms. We'll have that too. Basic currencies. Yes, we will have that. Now, one of the question people ask that, but we're in India, why should we have US dollar as a default? See, this is a global setting. So we will set it up as US dollar, and then as it was demonstrated during the first session, we will change it to Indian rupees. Okay, that's for you to practice. Now, then the show B code, the patron attribute type, we add that. Okay, now some people prefer to select the sample patron types and categories. Personally, I do not. I do not, for the simple reason because we are mostly focusing on an academic library, and an academic library will not have these user categories, or specifically this user category will not have a kid or a juvenile or a young adult. We'll probably have staff, that is library staff, faculty members and students, and perhaps non-teaching staff as well. So that's why I prefer to leave it out. So we can actually practice setting up our own patron types and categories. Okay. So we'll uncheck that. So this is one thing that is unchecked, unselected. Sample label and patron card type data, yes, we will want that. A default item types, again, yes, we do. Now here, even if you select this, I strongly recommend that unless you know what you are doing and what will be the outcome, do not select this sample libraries. Sample libraries should be unselected. Sample libraries should strictly be unselected. Okay, just keep in mind. If you don't, you might find you cannot log into your system. Yes, it can be that critical. Sample holidays, yes. Sample news items, again, yes. Sample patrons, again, no, no, and no. Okay, because patrons cannot exist in vacuum. Patrons exist with libraries. So since we're not selecting sample libraries, some default dummy libraries, we are also not going to select any dummy patron. Okay, hope that's clear. Then sample quotes, yes, and sample and some Z3950 servers, yep. So let's look at it, this section again from the top. So in the optional, we have selected almost everything except sample patron types and categories. We leave it aside. We leave aside sample libraries and we leave aside sample patrons. These three we should be leaving aside unless we know specifically and categorically what we are doing and how we are going to do it. All right. Then we just click on import. This step, once we click on import, helps to create the default data structures that we need in all those tables, those 209 tables. They get populated by the information, the data that Koha needs to function. Okay. Yeah. That sometimes can happen. It's not a very serious error because it only, excuse me, it's impacting only the holidays. Holidays we can do later. Okay. Now, one thing I would like to add here before we move to the next and the final step is that if you are doing it to set up a production system at your end, I would suggest at this point of time that you press Ctrl P and you take a print of this. You can save as a PDF and keep it as a printout. And okay, fine. Downloads. Why did we do that? Let's go to our desktop and have a look why we did that. Downloads, default data loader. If nothing else, this is a complete documentation of the data that you have loaded into your Koha system. For example, if you had not added, let's say, the default item types, you might face problems with your system. Maybe you've skipped the step, you skipped something and you forgot about it. Later on, if somebody asks, you come to me and say, sir, we are having a problem, please help us. I said, what did you install? What did you load? So that I don't remember. Well, you don't need to remember. You just take a printout. You just save it as a PDF. So this is how you document your system as well. Okay, this is the start of your system documentation. This is something that you can hand over to someone else if you're leaving the job and someone else has to look after the library. Okay. So that is that. Now, it says basic installation is complete. Now here is where things take a little different turn if you have used Koha earlier but have not worked with a recent version of Koha in last few years, last 2 to 3 years. Okay, last 3 years actually. Since 1705, if I remember right, we are having a dedicated section which is called the User Onboarding. Earlier, what used to happen is that after this import process was done, we could just log in. That is no longer possible in Koha. You cannot. This user ID and password, this user ID and this password that we used, earlier we used to be able to log in with that, and when we did, it used to give us a big yellow box that says you are logged in as the database user. Some things may not work correctly. Well, as a security measure and as a design feature, Koha no longer allows that. You cannot. The only part where you can log in using the database user ID and password into Koha is if you're installing it or you are upgrading it. For anything else, we will need to use a dedicated super librarian account, which we will create in the next step. And this is why, because of this, we need to do this. This is the onboarding. So this is called the onboarding process. Yeah. If you are a busy person like me, you don't want to wait, you can just click here. Okay. Now, remember, as we discussed in the first session, the library code is immutable. You cannot change it. So anyway, we keep calling it main, and here we can call it anything. Now this name we can change any time later. So this name, and just leave it as demo library, or call it, let's say, IDG's demo library. This code, we should think about it. It can be main, it can be whatever. It can be the initials of your library if your library has a name. But this needs to be unique and this needs to be alphanumeric, okay? Preferably within 4 to 5 characters. Submit. In our earlier versions of Koha, these are the things that you did after we logged in into Koha. Here we cannot log in into Koha unless we set these things up. The category code. Now look here, this library is created. Now we have to create a patron category. The patron category you create will be used by the administrator account. So we are defining the admin account. So role, I typically call it like STF, like stuff. And the description, library personnel. Overdue notice required, yes. Category is already locked here, staff, privacy default, in months. I typically give my library stuff 5 years, sorry, months, made a bit of a mistake, yeah, 60 months. So all my library stuff users by default have a 5-year validity. Okay. So we created the category. Now we need to add a patron. As it says in the green box, patron category added. Now we need to add the user to that category. So here we'll say Das Gupta. Okay, it's not Fufta. Yeah, Das Gupta, Indronil. Card number. Now card number is changeable. You can just add something. You can add 1, ABC, 1, 2, 3, whatever you want. You can change it later. But whatever you do, just try to remember and just note down the card number that you're giving. And yes, it is. You'll need it. So let's say I typically, since this is a system administrator account, I will usually call it system 01. This is my personal habit. You don't need to follow this. You can just call it whatever you want, because card number you can change later. Okay. Library, demo library, patron category is library personnel. Here's a crucial part. See, permissions is super librarian, so you have all rights and privileges on the Koha system. Username, I will say, let's say admin. You can say admin, you can say librarian. It's up to you. You can even give your own name for that matter. Okay, you can have something like Indronil.dasgupta. You can have Indradiji. You can have librarian. I typically prefer admin. Okay, or yeah, so this is what I use. Now coming to password, since last 2 years Koha has been a little strict about how you set your passwords up. You need at least one uppercase character, one lowercase character, and a number in it. Remember, these are completely password case sensitive. Okay, so even if you are prompted like something ABC 1, 2, 3, you'll have to give A as capital, BC. BC is lowercase, so you're fulfilling one uppercase, one lowercase, because you already have two lowercase, and 1, 2, 3. So there are 3 numbers. So one uppercase, one lowercase, one number. I'm just doing it as a demo. I strongly recommend that you use better passwords than this. Something you can remember, but you use better passwords. Okay. And submit. Okay. You might want to save it here. You might not. It's up to you. If you're using your computer, if your computer is shared, then I would suggest you don't save it. If it's not shared, it's a dedicated, you can save it. You can go ahead and save it. In this case, it is a dedicated laptop, so I can save it, and I think I will do that. Okay. Okay. Now here, the third thing. For circulation to work in Koha, you need a default rule. Now, what is a default rule? A default rule is basically a catch-all rule that will hold if you do not specify anything else. This is the default Koha rule. It comes out of the box. Usually what I do is I simply say yes, because this is a rule that we actually do not use in real life. This is like a catch-all thing, that if nothing is defined, then it will go to this, because we would end up defining rules for our users. So that is there. Circulation rule is created, because in Koha, unless a circulation rule is created, you cannot do circulation. Okay. Start using Koha. So here it is. Because we saved it, it's showing the admin and 1, 2, 3, ABC 1, 2, 3 with A capital. Login. Remember, yeah, here it shows our user ID, admin, and it shows the library instance that we created. So here is the whole entire thing. This is basically how we set it up. Okay. Now, if you look at the PDF back again, this is why here we said that the super librarian user ID and password to be set up by this is what we did. This is our admin and the ABC 1, 2, 3 that we set up. In your case, you will set it up the way you wish to do that. Okay, so it will be set up by this. This is what is meant by set up by the, to be set up by the user. Now the PHP My Admin URL. Now because it's an online hosted solution, you might want to have a look at your database. How can you look at your database? Okay, let's allow this. Since it's a URL, we clicked it and it's trying to open it up. Okay, there it's opened it up. Now, remember PHP admin user and pass, same as Koha database user ID and password. So again, we go back to Koha training, Control C, Control V. Can we go back to the PDF? See, we are not trying to type it. Oops, sorry. There is this background thing that sometimes comes into picture. Okay, Control C and Control V. It's faster, it's quicker, it's error free. Okay, so as we say in Hindi, apna dimag mat lagao. Here, don't try to apply your brain. I don't. Okay, ignore all. You can say save, whatever. Since here is your database, Koha training 18. Okay, these are your tables. Remember, I said there are 209 tables. That there you go, 209 tables. And if you want to see the user that we created, the admin user, that comes from borrowers table. There you go. System 1, card number. Okay. And if you do a Control F, admin. Yeah, there's admin. Now here I want to show you something. The password is fully encrypted. It is encrypted using bcrypt, B as in Bombay, bcrypt algorithm. So it's not plain, it's not stored in plain text. Nobody can see it, even I cannot see it. So if you forget the password, the only one other thing that you can do is reset the password. Okay, no one else can change look at the password. So here's the, and flag one user accounts which are where the flag is set to 1. Flag 1 means it's a super librarian account. Okay, so this is the story. So welcome to your Koha 19.11.05 practice instance. Please keep practicing hard. Use this 15 days to the maximum effort and effect. If you face any problem, if you have any queries, please feel free to ask. We are there for you. Okay?